It's Sunday in South Carolina. Welcome to the Touchdowns podcast presented by Harrison Williamson Cross Country Mortgage. We are continuing a little bit of our conversation from the emergency pod Friday. Thomas, we're going to be getting into some college football playoff stuff, recapping our picks. There's things going on in the portal. I'm wearing this sweater, so shout out to Styles Monteith. He didn't ask me to talk about his company, but I will mention Low Country Dock and Marine. They're building the best docks in the Low Country of South Carolina. So if you have a beach home or a lake house, anything that needs a dock where you need structure on top of water, hit up Styles and Spencer Crawford at Low Country Dock and Marine. They're in the Charleston area. Didn't ask me to do that, but he did send me this awesome sweater. So it's Christmas vibes, Gamecock vibes. Merry Christmas to everyone out there, and Happy Hanukkah to our buddy Willie T. Cash, William Einstein. So let's dive into it, Thomas. What I want to bring it up right from the jump because it is a continuation and also a validation of some of the things you said in the emergency pod. Kenny Dillingham, who's the head coach of Arizona State, he was rumored to be connected to the Michigan job. He came out and said they straight up never offered me. He signed a deal with Arizona State at $7.5 million a season for the foreseeable future. But I mean, he straight up. It's one thing when you say it, Thomas, just because you're a fan, you're just a casual observer and someone who likes college football and especially, loves the South Carolina football program. But there is a coach at a Power 4 conference school that just signed an extension, and he is in the media saying, is there not anyone in Tempe that can stroke a $20 million check for this football program? Like, we need it. We need the investment. We need the money. If we want to be who I think we can be as a program, and he's saying it as the coach, he needs the investment. So I just bring that up because it does validate what you were saying on Friday very passionately after all the Sterling Lucas decisions, and now it sounds like there was some wavering by Sterling, but it seems like the news is now official, and we can get into that. He's going to be moving on to LSU, so that will be a position coach that we have to backfill on our for our team. But I mean, Kenny Dillingham straight up said it. He said someone in Tempe stroked me a $20 million check. I need the investment. So just talk about that. Talk about Sterling going to LSU and what you think the impact of all this is. And maybe you might not be as passionate as you were Friday because we struck the emergency pod when you were hot and heavy. So you've had a couple days to sit on this. So give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So I don't know if you sent me the clip or I came across it on Twitter first, and then we were just talking about it. But I did watch it. It did make me feel less crazy. Although I might have come across a little crazy on the emergency pod just because I was pretty hot at that point in time. But to clarify, I do not think that what I said was crazy, and I don't think that I'm crazy for, asking the questions that I'm asking and making the demands that I'm making. But yeah, it does feel good to get a little bit of vindication from a sitting head coach at a Power 4 program. And, the way that he kind of phrased it is like, he didn't make any promises. He said he's going to do the best with it, best that he can with it. But if someone kind of does want to be the way that he was pitching it to the person that, steps in and does it is like, you would be remembered as the guy that catapulted Arizona State to a new level that we've never been able to accomplish. And no matter what we do after that and how much money is given after that to sustain it or what have you, you would be remembered as the guy that was the inflection point. But it does just go to show, like, the money matters. And, in terms of Sterling moving on, I wish him the best. Like you said, we got to fill that position, and once we do, I'll get behind the new guy, and it'll be on to the next man up mentality with coaches as well. I support the University of South Carolina and its football program, and I support the head coach, the assistant coaches, the players. And then when they move on to the next phase of their career, I wish them the best, but I get behind the new guy that's at the university. So, as far as like,
Still a polite way to say "fuck you, Sterling."
well, I'm not saying that, but as far as like him having second thoughts, I still am very curious to see what he ends up getting paid at LSU, and I'm gonna continue to dig and see if I can uncover, what we countered with, what that conversation was like. On the pod, in my very emotional state, I basically guaranteed that Dylan would follow him. And that got picked up by Tiger Droppings, which is a message board for LSU fans. So
shout out to Tiger Droppings.
Yeah, I think that we had more viewers on the emergency pod from the LSU message board than maybe even Carolina fans, just because they're excited about potentially getting Dylan. And, they very well still could. You and I, we have our back channels. We have, every Carolina fan that we hang out with and grew up with and have met along the way. We, information comes to us.
People know people, and
information comes to us in one way or another, and there seems to be some hope that we're at least making Dylan think about it. So he may stay, he may follow Sterling, he may jump in the portal, and once he's in the portal, he starts getting offers that are so good that he doesn't stay with us, but he doesn't follow Sterling either. He ends up somewhere else. All I know is wherever he plays next year, that defense is going to be better than they would have been if he's not on it, and he'll be a top 10 pick in next year's draft. So he doesn't really need to play any particular place to go pro. So it really kind of just comes down to what he wants to do with his final year of eligibility. He's going to get paid no matter where he is. He's going to get drafted top 10 no matter where he is. If he decides that, it's important to him to play in the college football playoff before he leaves school, I hope that Beamer and company have given him enough reason to believe that he can do that from South Carolina. But at the end of the day, I just hope that he is comfortable here and it doesn't mean enough to him to uproot his lifestyle to go play somewhere else. I think that will probably be what keeps him here more than anything else, just that he has friends here, a social circle here. But we'll see about that. Another interesting thing about the Dillingham extension is, he claims that Michigan never officially offered him. So that just goes to show like how ridiculous the Twitter leads are, and all these Michigan fans and Josh Pate like kind of insinuating one way or another about these coaching moves. Like no one knows. And
well, and it's this like, sorry to interrupt you, but it's
no,
like when Alabama was down 17-0 to Oklahoma, Colin Cowherd, college football aficionado,
yeah,
dumb motherfucker, but he was tweeting like, I think Michigan has their next coach.
yeah,
Basically insinuating Alabama's going to
yeah.
lose and then he's going to go to Michigan. Like, he
Brandon,
doesn't know a damn thing.
Brandon Walker tweeted the same thing. I mean, at this point, the integrity of journalism has gotten so watered down and diluted down that how I get duped by troll accounts all the time because I don't take the extra 5 seconds to see, like, look at the username to see if it's a valid account. But the reason that it's so easy to trick people is because the networks and the people that are supposed to be professional journalists are just as
they get tricked too.
They're not that they get tricked. They're just as clickbaity and speculative, and it's all just it's all just bullshit for impressions. So yeah, I mean, I think DeBoer is a lot more comfortable at Alabama than people are trying to allude to, and I think it's going to take a lot more to get him out of that seat than people like. Every time he loses, people think that they're going to fire him or he's going to jet.
Yeah,
and I just don't.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's the case. I am pretty curious to see where Michigan turns now that there was some smoke about now Elko is their primary target now that Texas A&M has lost. For the same reasons that I just stated about DeBoer and Dillingham, I don't know why Elko would up and want to move. Like, I know that Michigan is a more prolific program than Texas A&M, but in today's college football, like, they can't offer him resources that Texas A&M can't offer. So yeah, I mean, pick your poison when it comes to who you want as your next coach. And I don't really know what coaches are looking for these days. I do think that the fact that Penn State targeted the guy from BYU and they weren't able to get him, like the fact that Penn State struck out as many times as they did during their coaching search does kind of signal to me that the power dynamics have changed. And I think a lot of times when coaches come up in these searches, instead of actually taking them seriously, they're just going to use it as an opportunity to renegotiate their own contract and try and get more NIL money. It's just going to become a leverage play. And so, if you're a program and you want to fire a coach and move on, you better really kind of have a good idea of who you want, or you're just going to end up getting raises for all of your competitors and beefing up your competitors' NIL funds.
Yeah, I mean that's super interesting, and you kind of, speaking to NIL funds and the coaching carousel and what guys are looking for. One of the things that Lane Kiffin and one of the things LSU promised Lane Kiffin is we're going to go and spend on a roster. And I didn't think about this initially when we were reacting on Friday to the Sterling Lucas news. And I know you have it on good authority that, Dylan is a Sterling Lucas guy. He wants to be coached by Sterling Lucas. And so it's fair to assume that he would follow Sterling to LSU. But that's a $3 million player that LSU has to figure out within their budget. Okay, I didn't even think about it that way. It wasn't until I was talking to Miguel shout out Miguel, avid listener of the pod. We were on the phone yesterday, and I was like, "Well, shit, he's a high dollar player, so LSU's going to have to find $3 million to pay him. So, is that enough to convince him to stay at South Carolina? Because is LSU going to move around the money to get him on their roster? And if they do, it would show again, kind of show what you're talking about and your stance on how we are not investing in the program enough. And programs like LSU are willing to not only poach our coach, but then also find an additional $3 million to bring in a star player with said coach.
Right.
So it goes back to that, and that is it's something that I agree. I think where we disagree is I don't think money, and I know you've said before, money doesn't guarantee you shit. It just gives you a chance. I tend to think we should, not that it's fair or not that it's, but we should, the whole job of Shane Beamer is to be able to elevate the program with the resources at his disposal. And it's not always going to be fair, but I mean, fuck. Clemson won 2 national championships in the last. They're our rival. They're in the same recruiting state we are. They have a smaller alumni base. They've been able to have success. And I know it was a perfect storm for them, but what?
So in my research of, are we actually broke or not, I did Google the, most valuable athletic departments. We were 21st in the country. Our athletic department is worth over $800 million. And Clemson was a couple spaces ahead of us. So by no means does Clemson not have money. They have money. Clemson has money. Clemson invests in their football program. And, I think the comparison between, Clemson and South Carolina, they are in the ACC, so their path was always easier than our path has been. They don't have nearly as many roadblocks as we have on a year-in, year-out basis. They did strike the lottery with both Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. So they had, in both of their championships, they had a generational quarterback. I think that Venables being at Clemson as long as he was really, really great for Dabo. Like, they had a great staff. They had a head coach caliber DC for 10 plus years. So yeah, like, a lot of things went right for Clemson, and they were able to win championships against teams that might have spent more money than they do on a year in, year out basis. But by no means was Clemson not spending money on their program. Like, they were signing top 10 recruiting classes during that time where they had that great run. And everybody knows about New Spring. Like, and look, and that's not a dig at Clemson fans. I'm not taking a shot at you for cheating, because we cheat too. In fact, my biggest complaint about South Carolina in the Will Muschamp era is that we were not cheating enough. I was pounding the table saying we need to cheat more. We need to cheat more effectively, because clearly whatever we're doing isn't enough, because Clemson's kicking our ass. So, again, Beck, yes, we're a smaller state. We will never have the money that Texas has. We can't just say, here's more money, like now we're going to win. But I do believe that we have more resources at our disposal. And when I say we, I mean the University of South Carolina. I think that as an institution, we do not prioritize sports as much as we could. We don't prioritize football as much as we should. There is more money in the coffers of South Carolina as a university and as an athletic department than we are using. Like if we are truly exhausting what we can as a university and we still lose, that is something that as someone who grew up in South Carolina and went to the University of South Carolina, I can live with. The thing that is making me insane at this moment in time is I don't believe that we are doing that. I don't believe that we're exhausting our resources. So that is what I am now advocating for. In addition to, yes, the coaching needs to be better. I do think that our staff got better this offseason. Like, I think we have a better OC than we had. I'm excited about our new offensive staff. I have been, excited about Clayton. I think we have a great DC. So, like, overall, I think the staff is better. I think that the coaching staff should be able to get more out of our roster. But it's everything all the time each year. We need to acquire as much talent as we can acquire. We need to employ the best coaches that we can employ. And talent acquisition and coaching is part of the equation. And money is another part. And I want us to spend more money on the football team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the tough part is we aren't behind the curtain, and so we don't know how the money's spent.
But that is a good point. I got to be behind the curtain. I don't know if you've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I had the opportunity to be a recruiting assistant from 2017 to 2019 under Will Muschamp. And I'll be honest with you, when I got that job, my initial aspiration was to break into coaching. And one day I was going to be on the staff in some capacity at South Carolina. I very quickly realized that it would be near impossible for me to do that, because as soon as I started working in the recruiting office, I realized that everybody in the program at every level wanted to be a coach for the most part. And many people that had much better credentials than I did, such as people that had been college football players for the University of South Carolina, still didn't have an easy path into coaching. So that was part of the reason that I ended up leaving the working in the football industry. Another factor as to why I left is because while I was behind the curtain, it became so obvious to me how important boosters were for driving the success of a program. And again, this was under Will Muschamp. This was before NIL. So this was all when the money aspect of things was illegal. But it just, I came to the conclusion that I could better serve South Carolina as a booster than as an employee. So my ambition switched from working for the team in a position of power to becoming an entrepreneur and hopefully one day making enough money to where I have enough disposable income that I could give in a meaningful way to the football program. and help us win football games. So you're right. I don't know what the numbers are today. I don't know how behind we are. The programs that I believe we're still behind, but I know that we were behind them in 2019. So that's why I am emphatically saying we need more money.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you in that regard. And again, just like you, I want to eventually be able to make a meaningful investment in the program and make a difference. And there is people out there that could do that. And again, those are the people, it's the people that can, like I mentioned, like I said last podcast, you have to be able to move mountains, just with your pockets or just by stroking a check. Just like Kenny Dillingham said, it's like, hey, there's got to be someone in Tempe that loves Arizona State University enough and has the means to write me a $20 million check. And obviously, we are not the two people right now that can do that. And I don't know who those people are. Clearly, it's happening in other programs, and I'm sure, I'm sure we have plenty of big boosters, but it come to me, it does come down to the investment, but also, again, we have to put a better product on the field, and that's through coaching and players. And I get it. You acquire talent via investment, but this is where I think, and the college football landscape has changed, and it's going to continue to change, and we'll see how the rules end up shaking out. But that might be something that we disagree on, between if if there's a collective bargaining agreement and the transfer portal's limited, and whether that makes us have a better chance or worse chance, that's something that we can debate. But ultimately, like you said, we need investment. It sucks to get a coach poached from us. I think one of the comments I can't remember if it was on YouTube or on the Instagram or whatever, but basically one of the comments was like, y'all are a second tier program, and sorry, Sterling Lucas wanted to go to a higher tier program. And that is, LSU has 3 national championships this century. They are clearly a higher tier program than we are. And maybe that's all Sterling wanted. Like, he just wanted that, but that just sucks that he's not necessarily taking a promotion in title. Like, he wasn't going to be the defensive coordinator of LSU. He was going to do the same damn job at LSU as he was already doing with us. And so it's just straight up, hey, I think LSU's a better job, and who knows what we did to try and entice him to stay. But you're right. I just think, we'll continue to harp on this throughout the off season, but at the end of the day, once we get the players in the building, we got to coach them up, and we got to play better football. Like, we have talent. I mean, we had talent this year, and we got 4 wins out of it. And you just, to your point, it's not the investment doesn't guarantee you shit. It just gives you a chance. But we didn't even play to our potential with the talent that we had this year. So we got to get beyond just thinking about, all right, how can we administratively get better? It's like, we actually have to coach better and play better as a team. But that's the continuing debate that we'll have, and conversation that we'll have. And hey, it's a good, to your credit, it's a good reminder to people out there that type of shit matters. So if someone hears it, maybe they get the urge to urge to invest. So if anyone out there listening to this podcast has $20 million,
Gamecock Nation, we need one of y'all to invent something. Do we have any smart Gamecock alumni that, can cure something, can invent something? Any Gamecock fans thinking about going on Shark Tank? We need money.
Hey, go down to Touchdowns and buy a beer and the best cheesesteak in Columbia. If you can manage to sell 1 million cheesesteaks, Thomas, you might get to that $20 million threshold. But let's talk about the college football playoff. We had we've had heated group of 5 discussions. There was 4 games. It was the first round. First and foremost, I want to say we need college football playoff games to continue to be on campus. I think I have a vision for the college football playoff that you might disagree with, but I want to see I want to see conference championships rewarded. So I know you're against automatic qualifiers, but I want to see conference championships rewarded. But I'm going to do it this way. We're going to have the four highest ranked conference champions, not the 5 highest ranked, the 4 highest ranked. So theoretically, that should be the Power 4 conference champions. Maybe, every odd year that, there's the group of 5 is better than the 4th. But I want to see those 4 teams get in to incentivize conference champions. And then I want to have a play-in for the remainder of the spots. And I've been drinking today, so I haven't actually put, serious thought into this as far as, doing the math on it. But I want to have a play-in so you avoid the situation of a Texas, a Vanderbilt, a BYU bitching about getting left out. But you have a play-in to essentially you reward the conference champions. They automatically get into the playoff. And then you have a play-in system, and that's where you use the bowls to, so you still fill the sponsors, you still get the economic impact in the cities that the bowls are hosted. And that's where you use the bowls as the play-in. And then once you get into the playoff, it's all on campus until the national championship. Thoughts on? I know I just went on a tangent there, and it's not really talking about what happened. We can talk about what happened yesterday and Friday night, but what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you're a strong proponent of just give me the 12 ranked teams. You don't like auto bids, but I would like to see that kind of system because I think it does still include. It doesn't give the Power 5 an automatic bid into it, where we saw that JMU might have taken Notre Dame's spot this year, and people are pissed about that. But it still gives the group of 5, if they get into a play-in game and they win their way into it, instead of just having them automatically qualify. But it also rewards conference championships. So in the instance of the Big Ten championship this year, when it's Indiana, Ohio State, and that game didn't fucking matter because they both got in, and they, Ohio State went from one to 2. It didn't really hurt them. They still had a bye. But in this format, that game matters because if you lose that game, you have to play a play-in to get to the show. So that puts an onus on winning a conference championship game. It brings the value back to that. And then it also allows for teams like Texas, Vanderbilt, BYU to play their way in against, because at this, we've talked about it. All these teams are flawed. Oklahoma, Mateer just throwing the dumbest pick six ever. Their punter can't even kick the punt. Like, all these teams have flaws. And so It's a better system in my estimation. And I'm ranting, so please chime in.
Okay. If we won an SEC championship, but we didn't win a national championship that same year, would the SEC championship still matter to you?
Yes.
Okay, then conference championships matter still. Indiana has never won a Big Ten championship. So whether or not they go on to win the national championship this year, the fact that they won a Big Ten championship does and will forever matter to Indiana fans. And that game has meaning to them for
But
this
it
season.
didn't matter in the landscape of the it didn't matter in the landscape of the playoff.
Shut up. Do you think that Georgia or Texas Tech is better? If you had to play one of those two teams to make the national championship, which team would you prefer to play?
I mean, I picked Texas Tech to beat Georgia in the national championship, so I think Texas Tech is better.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion. I personally, if I had to choose one of those two teams to play, I would choose to play Texas Tech. And that is the path that Indiana presumably has, because they beat Ohio State and they're on the left side of the bracket as the 1 seed, versus the path that Ohio State has for losing the Big Ten championship and being on the right side of the bracket with the 3 seed. You know, if the seeds are correct, being the 2 seed is a harder path than being the 1 seed. So what that actually means in theory is, by winning the Big Ten and being the 1 seed, Indiana has given themselves a better opportunity to win the national championship, because they get to play the 4 seed in the semifinal if it's scratch, versus having to play the 3 seed in the semifinal if it's a scratch bracket. So for those reasons, conference championships still do matter. Now, and here's the thing. They do, it's just a fact. They don't matter as much as they used to matter. Like when in the BCS format, losing any game, including the conference championship game, probably meant you didn't get to play for the national championship. And even in the 4-team format, losing any game or losing the conference championship probably meant that you didn't get to compete for the national championship. A byproduct of us expanding to 12 teams, there's no way you can slice it. Yes, you can lose more games, you can lose your conference championship, and you still have the opportunity to win a national championship. So in that way, conference championships do mean less and will forever mean less. I don't think that we need to fucking bend backwards 3 different ways trying to give meaning to a conference championship game that just cannot mean what it used to mean. For me, as a South Carolina fan, I will always appreciate winning an SEC championship. I think that any fan of a team will care about winning their conference forever. But yes, in the grand scheme of the sport, winning a conference doesn't mean as much as it used to be from a national landscape standpoint. I don't want to do your little top 4 conference champions get a bye. I want to do away with. I want to do away with auto bids in every capacity. I do like your idea to have more playoff games on campuses, and it has been stated online already by other people that the first round shouldn't just be home games. The second round should also be home games, and it doesn't go to neutral site until the semifinals. I'm all for that. I think it would be awesome to have Bama go to Indiana now and have Oregon go to Texas Tech. Miami would go to Ohio State. Ole Miss would go to Georgia. And then those games are played, and it doesn't become neutral site until the semifinals. I think that's great. I don't know if that will get done because of the bowl games. Like, maybe you could have the sponsors still sponsor the game and get all the commercial runtime that they get and hang up their banners or whatever, in those campuses on the state. Like, it can be the fucking whatever bowl, but it's still played in Sanford Stadium instead of the neutral site stadium. And the cities that used to host those bowl games, like, I don't know how you get out of that, but yeah, I'm all for more home college football games, but I don't like your workaround for conference champ. No, I don't give a shit about that.
Right.
But yeah, to finalize the point, both Group of Five schools got smoked. I don't think that that's a reason to eliminate the Group of Five, because if they would have played competitively, or even if one of those teams had won the game, I still wouldn't want to include the Group of Five in the way they are currently included. I don't even think that we should have included Notre Dame this year, regardless of the Group of Five schools. Notre Dame needs to join a conference, or they need to be hyper aggressive with their scheduling if they just continue to refuse to join a conference. They shouldn't get to go 1-2 against ranked teams and then play a super easy schedule outside of that and expect to get in just because of their logo. If not for the Group of Five, if I were picking the top 12 based off of a resume, I would have put BYU above Notre Dame. I would have put Vanderbilt above Notre Dame because they won more games against top 50 teams. And
Vandy didn't beat anyone.
They still had more top 50 wins than Notre Dame did.
Well, they didn't beat anyone, and also A&M didn't beat anyone except They beat Notre Dame, so that's why they got in. But
I'm just saying, like, we have to fix the strength of schedule metric. And I know that there's inherent bias in that because of preseason rankings and because of every, like, there's a million different ways why the ranking systems are flawed, and we should improve on those. But Sarkisian brought it up at Texas. He said that Texas is going to honor their non-conference games against Ohio State and Michigan, mainly because both of those teams are coming to Texas, and so they'll be home games. But moving forward, if they don't get credit for that, they're going to replace that game with another cupcake. And, that isn't the direction that I want college football scheduling to move in. I'm so sick of sitting here having to listen to all these people mock SEC bias and, make fun of South Carolina fans for saying, well, we play in the SEC. That's why our record is the way it is sometimes. I would love, even though we're moving to 9 conference games and we play Clemson every year, I would still be down to schedule a Power 5 opponent that's not in the SEC, Power 4. Like, I would love to play a Big 10 team or a Big 12 team or an ACC team that's not Clemson in the non-conference and have 11 Power 4 conference games if the committee was effective at giving you credit for that. Like, whether it's a 12-team playoff or a 16-team playoff or a 24-team playoff, I think that there should be a way that we can give teams credit for playing a more difficult schedule. So it doesn't matter if you're 10-2, 9-3, or even 8-4. If you're 8-4, but you beat 7 ranked teams and you lost to 3 ranked teams, so you played 10 ranked teams out of your 12 games, I think that there's a wacky scenario where that 8-4 team that has that resume, they should potentially get the 12th spot. Like, I don't want it to be a situation where teams are incentivized to schedule as easy as possible, because the same argument that you're making for these group of 5 schools about, well, they settled it on the field and it's not speculative. If we could reward strength of schedule and strength of resume, that could be a nationwide thing. We could play a Big 10 school every single year. We could play a Big 12 school every other year. And by all of these Power 4 non-conference games happening, yeah, that would result in more 10-2, 9-3, 8-4 teams. But these conference, which is the best conference, could be settled a lot more on the field in the regular season, rather than just having the teams that sneak by with their easy conference schedule and then they play each other in the playoff. You're right. If Texas A&M would have played a non-conference Power 4 team, then we might have, recognized that they're not as good as they actually look, because they lucked into an easy SEC schedule this year a lot sooner. But the way that college football,
they beat Notre Dame in September.
I know, but if they played another non-conference game on top of that,
right.
What I mean?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I want to see more power. That is the problem. Is that? But this whole thing of we should have kept Miami on our schedule.
Can you not see the reason that we took Miami off of our schedule is because of the group of 5 auto bids? What the group of 5 auto bids represent is, if you're a Power 4 team, you have to be perfect in non-conference, because a loss to a good team is going to be penalized more than a win over a nothing team is penalized. Scheduling an FCS team that you're going to be favored by 40 points against and should mean nothing towards your resume, it's essentially just buying a bye week. And teams are incentivized to do that instead of taking a risk and scheduling a team that could potentially beat them. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but schedule the game and win it. That's what Miami did. They scheduled Notre Dame and they won, and that's how they got in. If they scheduled a fucking FCS cupcake instead of Notre Dame, they wouldn't have got into the playoff.
They might not have, but what? Well, let me just answer you that.
You just got to win the game that you schedule.
Okay, but that's not what teams are doing. We canceled the games.
I know.
Georgia's canceling their game. Everyone's canceling their games because the games aren't being rewarded. So why would
they are if you win them?
That's not how schools are approaching it, though. I'm just telling you what's actually happening. If you want to see these games, as a college football fan, if you want to see these games played, then there has to be a reward for it. And there has to be tangible proof.
Why should you be rewarded for losing?
I'm not saying that, Beck. I'm saying
that's pretty much that's what you're saying. You're saying schedule a good team, and if you lose, it shouldn't hurt you.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying the risk reward right now, like, teams are not being rewarded for having a more difficult schedule. So if you're not going to reward me for having a difficult schedule, I'm going to schedule as easy as possible, because what you have told me, based off of who has made the field versus who hasn't, is the most important thing is record. So if 11-1 is all that matters, then I'm going to find the easiest possible way that I can to get to 11-1. And if you're an SEC team that's now going to be forced to play 9 SEC games, why on earth would you schedule a team that is hard at all outside of that. We're going to keep scheduling Clemson because they're our rival. We're actually doing ourselves a disservice by keeping that rivalry intact in terms of making the playoff, because what the committee is telling us is the best way for South Carolina to make the field moving forward would be to play 3 FCS teams, go 3-0 against them, and hope that we get the easiest possible SEC draw and go 8-1. Because like you said, A&M didn't beat anybody outside of Notre Dame. But if you can have one good win and be 11-1,
right? They got rewarded for scheduling a tough game. But it's just all about just if you win.
Let me paint this picture for you a different way. You have A&M that is 11-1, and the only good team they beat is Notre Dame. Do you, Beck Dugas, value that more than a team that is 9-3, but they have 4 good wins? I'm hypothetical team 9-3. I beat 4 ranked opponents during the season, and I lost to 3 ranked opponents. Or would you rather see Texas A&M that has 1 ranked win but no bad losses because they didn't play anybody good? What do you think is more valuable?
A&M would be ranked. I mean, look, that happened this year. A&M was ranked above Bama.
Saying, do you think that's right? Is that what you want? Is that what you want the committee to value? Because if you're saying, yes, I would rank A&M higher than Alabama, then that is the death of non-conference matchups. With the Big Ten playing 9 conference games, with the SEC playing 9 conference games, with the Big 12 and the ACC moving to 9 conference games, if you're saying I would rather a team be 11-1, but they only have 1 marquee win, well, no one's going to schedule a difficult game non-conference.
Because that's what the game and win it is what I'm saying.
All right, bro, but no one's going to do that.
I mean, I realize that.
So what do you want? You're saying things that don't – you're saying conflicting things. You're saying I want to play these non-conference games. You're saying I want – but teams aren't going to come in with the mentality of, oh, we're just going to win. Like, that is what the mentality should be, but that's not what athletic directors are going to think like. So do you want to see the games or not? And if you want to see the games, then we have to change the strength of schedule weight, and we have to change the strength of resume metrics to value that.
Bro, I get that. I get that. But essentially, I get what you're saying. And yes, losing to, Notre Dame losing to, that was the whole Notre Dame Miami debate this year. Is that the fact that Notre Dame had good losses?
That's head to head.
Miami didn't.
That's head to head. That's different. Okay, let me ask you this one more way, and if you can't compute it, then I don't know what to do for you. Do you think that us losing at LSU should hurt us more than beating SC State? What do you value more? If you're building a resume, do you think it should boost your resume to lose a close game at LSU or to beat South Carolina State?
I think winning should boost your resume, and losing should not.
Even though it's an FCS opponent.
I agree that there's a difference, but dude, you have to value winning. Like, you can't be rewarded for losing.
Right,
Thomas.
but Beck, the difference in quality, like, basketball can do this. I don't understand why this is such a fucking foreign concept to people. We have a fucking Division I college sport that does this already. When you are a Division I basketball team and you lose to a quad 1 team that does not penalize your RPI as much as, not beating the shit out of a quad 4 team. Like when they're coming up with the bracketology, they look at Q1 wins, they look at Q2 wins, and they look at Q3 and Q4 losses, and a combination of all of it. I'm saying the equivalent of playing an FCS team in college football should be looked at like a fucking Q6 in college football. Like it's utterly meaninless. Like it should not. It counts as a win on the schedule, but it could not be more meaningless. So why do we treat it the same way as these other wins? That's why I'm so insane about the G5 participation. Because if you look at JMU's resume, yeah, they were 11-1, but they lost to the only Power 4 team they played. And we were 4-8 this year. But we beat Coastal by 50 fucking points. And if we would have played JMU's schedule, we would have gone 11-1. So it's like, who fucking cares if they win 11-1? We have to find a way to be able to discern against a win and a shitty win. Like, shitty wins should not be weighted the same way as a good win. And so when you have these records side by side, we have to find a way to look through, like, do you think clearly there is a line in the sand, because Alabama at 9-3 was ranked ahead of JMU at 11-1. So they're able to do it for, Bama versus JMU. I'm saying, why can't we find a way to do that for a 9-3 Bama team or a 9-3 whoever team and an 11-1 Texas A&M? There has to be a better way of measuring quality wins. And if they could do that effectively, we could have better non-conference scheduling.
Right. Well, but that's the thing, though, Thomas, is the committee is fucking stupid. Like, you want to bring up strength of record. BYU was 6th in strength of record, and they weren't ranked.
That's what I just said 30 minutes ago. I would have put BYU above Notre Dame. BYU should have played.
They weren't ahead of Bama. They weren't ahead of Bama, A&M, Ole Miss. They had better.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. They should have been ahead of those teams.
So they can't even figure it out. But what I'm saying is this mentality of, like, it's the Texas mentality. Oh my God, if we didn't schedule Ohio State, we would have been in playoff. Like, how about you just fucking beat Ohio State and then you would have been in playoff? How about you don't lose to 4-8 Florida?
But what you're saying isn't constructive, because basically what you're saying is just win. And it's like, yeah, dude, if you just win all your games, you'll be in. You don't have to worry about how the play. If you go undefeated, you don't have to worry about how the teams are picked. And that has always been true. That doesn't change what we're talking about. You're saying you want more good games. I want that too. Well, the way that you get that is if we find a better way of measuring strength of resume. The answer to you saying just win all the games isn't going to get athletic directors to schedule more difficult schedules.
Quit being pussies and just win the game. If Texas beat Ohio State, they would have been in the top 5 with 2 losses.
Yes, I know that.
But they didn't. They didn't. They didn't beat Ohio State. They lost to Ohio State.
Well, and they're going to play Ohio State and Michigan the next 2 years, and then they're going to eliminate that game and replace it with Texas State.
Yeah, and guess what? When they're in a debate about getting in, the committee's going to say, "Well, damn, They beat Texas State, San Jose State, and Sam Houston State in non-conference. But if they would have scheduled Ohio State and beat them, the committee could say, "Oh shit, Texas beat Ohio State in non-conference. We're going to rank them ahead of all the." There's 5 10-2 SEC teams. We're going to rank Texas above them, above these other 4 10-2 SEC teams because they played and beat a good team. You have to schedule a good team to beat a good team. So when you schedule a good team, you get rewarded for beating them. You don't get rewarded for losing. That is what I'm saying. Schedule the game and win it, and you will reap the benefits. Schedule the game and lose it, and you shouldn't get credit for fucking losing.
I'm not asking. Like, there's obviously an extent to it. Like, if a team played 12 Power 4 games, but they went 7-5, then yeah, they lost too much. But there has to be a middle ground, because what you're asking for isn't what you're saying isn't conducive with what you're asking for. You want to see more non-conference matchups so we can settle more of the who's the better conference on the field, but we're never going to get that with the way that strength of resume and strength of schedule is weighted in today's selection process.
Bro, but you're acting like there's 6 group of 5 teams that get in the playoff. There's 1 spot for group of 5. Like,
this is beyond just the group of 5. I mean, I want that spot taken away as an auto bid for sure, but I'm saying this has to be corrected. If we want more good non-conference games, strength of resume and strength of schedule has to be fixed in terms of how we value it.
Hey, we could just do my system where there's a play-in, and then we don't have to fucking debate it.
Even with the play-in, people would be bitching about who gets into the play-in. So, like, until we fix the actual – there need to be better parameters for how we value things. Because if they come out and say, in the same way that basketball does, you get something.
Basketball is different.
Why is it different? Why is putting a numerical value on the outcomes of games, why is it impossible to do that with football too? Why can't we say, okay, this is everyone's RPI, this is their net, this is whatever. And if you beat someone with a top 50 net or RPI or whatever we call it, that is the value of that. So then when you go into a season, you can say, or you can see, oh, we only play 2 top 50 teams this year. We have to beat those top 50 teams and run the table because our strength of schedule is not good. And we're not going to get value out of this schedule, so we have to win all these games. Or you can go into it and say, oh, shit, we have 5 teams in the top 15 in RPI. All we got to do is win 3 of these 5 games, and we should have a strong enough rating to be in the field. We literally played 5 teams that made the playoff in a row, and we didn't win enough of those games. But if we would have
won any of them,
well, winning none is the same as not winning enough, dickhead. But if we would have won,
so we went 0-5 in those games, but so we should be treated the same for going 0-5 as for James Madison going 5-0 against shit.
No, but like
I understand where you're coming from. But basketball,
no one would ever do this. Here's what I'm saying, Beck.
4 games.
No one would ever do this because it doesn't matter. But as a 4-8 team, we should be ranked higher than other 4-8 teams because of our schedule. Because, we're 4-8. We're not good. We were 4-8, but the schedule that we played to get to 4-8, we're a lot better than a lot of other 4-8 teams because of the schedules that they played, and they're still 4-8. That's why we beat Coastal by 50 points, even though we were 3-8 at the time, or 3-7 at the time. Because we're 3-7, but we're 3-7 because partly due to the fact of the teams that we played to get to 3-7. We have a lot of talent on our we were a very talented 3-7 team. So
I see what you're saying. We went on a rant there. JMU covered. So, the college football playoff, honestly, all the games were shit. The Oklahoma game, they jump out 17-0. They forget how to play football. Bama wins. The Texas A&M Miami game, I mean, what a shit show. Just missed field goals the whole game. 3-3. Miami finally scores. And then like you mentioned, the group of five, Ole Miss waxed Tulane, and Oregon handled business against JMU. I think we're going to get much better games in the second round. The Oregon Texas Tech matchup's awesome. Miami Ohio State, Georgia Ole Miss. I kind of hate that that's a rematch, but Georgia Ole Miss, Alabama Indiana. I think the second round is gonna be some great games, and I expect the higher seeds to win all of those games. Like I predicted at the beginning of the bracket, I was pretty chalky having 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the semifinals, but I do think the top 4 teams will advance. And as people kind of stated, it would have been pretty sick to have a 14 playoff with Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech this year if we were still in the 14 playoff. And I think ultimately we're going to get to that. But that's going to be we'll wait and see. But I think those are going to be some great games in the second round. And again, we went off on a tangent, but that's pretty much the gist of it. I didn't, like I said, I didn't think the games were that great. I think they're going to be better in the next round. Any final thoughts on that? DB Blitz wise, shout out my buddy Trey, but I mean, Kennesaw State was down 34-0, like in the early in the second quarter. That was a huge L. And JMU and Miami covered for me in the college football playoff. Oklahoma and Tulane did not, so I finished 2-3. I think you're 1-3 with a bowl game still pending. I will not be betting any non-college football playoff bowl games. These things suck now. You don't even know. I don't even know how to bet them because the teams that are playing in them, you can do whatever research you want to do, but it's completely different rosters. Half the teams, coaches have been poached. You just don't know what's going on. So I would not be betting any more bowl games. I know that's un-American of me, but the bowl games suck now, if I'm being quite frank. I take that back. I probably will bet Penn State over Clemson, but that's about it. I think they're an underdog, so I'll probably just money line the Nittany Lions. But any final thoughts on that, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty frustrated to get backdoored in the Oregon JMU game. So lame. And then, in my attempt to not be chalky and take A&M to go on a run, I'm going to end up looking pretty stupid with that side of the bracket. But I'll take Penn State against Clemson as well. Probably won't bet many bowl games outside of that either. I am on Louisville against whoever they play. But yeah, I mean the bowl season is not what it used to be, and I think that. But I don't like all.
It sucks. It used to be fun as hell.
That romanticize it. It's like, dude, yeah, the good games are still being played. They're just being played in the playoffs. So if you took away all of the best bowls, what was left of the bowl season wasn't that great back then either.
I disagree.
I do think that you do have like more players sitting out and moving around than you used to have. And I think that that is more of a reason as to why bowl season isn't as good than the playoffs is. So if we fix the calendar and all the bowls get played before you can go into the portal, I think that would go a long way into improving the quality of bowl season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, why this is just my perspective. Why the fuck do I care if none of the players care? You got players opting out. I know the players. Some of the players care because they're young and they're trying to prove. This is their chance to prove themselves. But these teams are just have 10s and 15s and 20 guys opting out and not playing because they're going in the portal or they're going to the NFL. And it just takes away from it. And the one pushback I'll give you is bowl season used to be great because it was that chance to see, okay, like this is the third best team in the SEC versus the third best team in the Big Ten. Let's see who wins. Or this is the fifth best team in the ACC versus the fifth best team in the Big 12. Let's see who wins. And the games were competitive and the players cared, and they're as a fan, it was fun to watch, and as a bettor, it's fun to bet because what you're betting on. So yeah, that just kind of sucks. But yeah, eventually, what we talked about in our rant, my hope is that eventually, shout out Cajun Cousins, eventually that with this bowl, we won't need the bowls to settle these interconference debates. There will be enough Power Four, and I know we just ranted about how these games aren't being scheduled because of the way metrics are used, but eventually I think there's going to be a point where basically there needs to be 9 conference games and 3 Power Four non-conference games, and I eventually think the group of 5 is going to get separated from the Power Four. But we'll see. Again, I'm not the commissioner, but it seems to be. I don't want that to happen. I've been sticking up for the group of 5. I like a Cinderella. I would like to see.
Okay, I'm glad that you bring that word up because we just said in the last episode that there hasn't been a new national champion in college football since 1996. South Carolina is a Cinderella. Indiana is a Cinderella. We don't need a fucking shitty team from a lower division of football for it to be considered a Cinderella. There are plenty of Power Four teams that have never won a national championship that would be a Cinderella. By definition of a bracket, if a 12 seed, regardless of what the team is or what the program is, if you're the 12 and you beat 11 teams that are ranked ahead of you, that's a Cinderella. It doesn't have to be this team that played a bullshit out of the top 100 strength of schedule to be a Cinderella. We're a Cinderella.
We technically are. That's a valid point.
I mean, shit.
Valid point. It was a fun discussion today. We'll keep doing it. Merry Christmas to all who celebrate. Happy Hanukkah to Willie T. Cash specifically, but also all that celebrate whatever you celebrate. Happy holiday season. We'll continue doing episodes. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We appreciate everyone who listens and engages. We love doing this. We're going to keep doing it. and be on the look for more episodes coming. We didn't talk basketball tonight, but the Gamecocks are getting into conference play here soon. So as we said last episode, the outlook is bleak, but never know what Cusa of Lamont can pull off. So more and more Gamecock college football stuff to talk, and we appreciate everyone who listens. And go Cox.
Go Cox.